Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on this new GeneXus webinar. GeneXus 16 new features, how to use the new import from Sketch functionality by Gonzalo Echagüe and Mauro Canciani. Gonzalo Echagüe is solution specialist at GeneXus. He has been working since 1992 with GeneXus, developing web and mobile applications. Mauro Canciani is UX designer and developer with almost 20 years of experience developing interactive applications, web, mobile, augmented reality, and wearables. Mauro currently leads the design team at GeneXus. At this time, I now present to you Gonzalo and Mauro.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everybody. This is Gonzalo, and we will start the presentation. So, Sketch. Why we have an import from a Sketch? The first thing that we would like to mention is that we created a tool that allowed to import from a Sketch, in this case, because we want the designers, when they create the design systems in the tool that they are using, to have a way to import this design system inside GeneXus. So these tools allows the import from a Sketch of a design system. A lot of the elements of the design system will be imported inside GeneXus, helping the definition of the applications using a design system. And why Sketch? That's because Sketch has more than 1 million designers, paying designers using the tool. Most of the important customers that they have, like Apple, Google, Facebook, are using Sketch. And this happens because Sketch was the first tool especially created for designers with less complicated tools or features than Photoshop, for example. Also, Sketch has an open format. When you create a project in Sketch, you can access the content of the Sketch file that is that they have a lot of JSON with the information of how the Sketch design was done. Obviously, it has binaries also for the images and so on. We can see in this graphic the number of preference for Sketch. Also, there is a Figma. This is a new tool for designers that is full web. It also has a Windows version, I guess. And then is Adobe XD. The difference between Sketch, Figma, and Adobe, more than the special features that they have for the designer, is also the way that there are the subscriptions. Sketch is only for Mac, and there is no free version. You need to pay. The personal version is, I guess, is $10. Figma has a free version, and then you can upgrade to paid versions, and the same as Adobe XD. So we have this import tool from Sketch in GeneXus available since GeneXus 16 U5 for smart devices. And we are working in the GeneXus Trunk version, in the beta, to import the Sketch definition for web. And these are available if you download the Trunk version, so you can test also for web. Let's go to see how it works, the integration with GeneXus. When we import from a Sketch, we have 3 steps to import the definition of the design system in Sketch. The first one is the Sketch import, that is marked with the arrow. And after the import of the Sketch is done, we must import also the fonts and the images that will complete all the elements that are needed to have the fully interface defined, the design system defined in Sketch into GeneXus. when the import of these objects are completed, the result inside the GeneXus KB is the definition of several objects. We are going, the import will define panels by web panels and SD panels. Also, will code inside the panels in the events for the navigation when we go from one panel to another. So GeneXus will define this the call to allow these navigations. They are going to be created stencils for their reuse. We will see later how we do this. Also, the SIM is defined. If we ask during the import dialog to create a new one, the SIM is created. Images, fonts, and also the test data objects that are created in data provider. Because not only the panels are imported, also the elements of the data that was created in Sketch are imported inside GeneXus as static data. This is because we create a data provider with the static definition of the data. So when we do this import, for example, in this case is a mobile application that is food truck application. The element that you see in the grid for the burger fries or lollipop pallets and so on, these are part of a data provider that load this static data. And basically, after the import, we should, in this case that we are going to see in the demo now, we should have these 5 panels created after the import of GeneXus using all of these elements that were defined in the sketch file as a design system. We have a logo, grids, all with the same look and feel. The buttons have also a specific class for this. And also all of this information of this element that compound the design system should be inside the KB after the import. So let's try. Now I will go to GeneXus. So now, can you see GeneXus on the screen, right?
No.
No? Okay, let me come back. Now, can we see GeneXus?
Yes.
Okay. So we have this KB, and we are going to start from scratch. I just defined the KB in order to accelerate the definition of the KB, but nothing else. Here in the tools, we select the application integration option and sketch import. In this case, but we can select from here the sketch project, and also we can select the theme that is going to be added. Okay, in this case, and we select as an output of the integration, we'll create the images and also a menu. Okay, it's going to be created after the import. So if I press OK here, we should see that GeneXus is doing the import from the sketch project. Now you can see that are creating the panels in the output. And well, it looked like it finished without any error, any warning here. And here we can see that the panels were created. We have 5 panels and also the menu. We can see also that the objects, the data provider objects that provide the static data for these panels were created. And also the stencils that are the reusing elements that were created from the design system from Sketch. Okay, so all of these objects were created here, and Now we are going to finish the import steps. We need to import the fonts. I'm selecting where the fonts are, and I will select the theme. And finally, we are going to import the images. So this is the folder where are present the images. So we finished the necessary step in order to have all the Sketch project imported inside GeneXus. And now we are going to run, okay? So if I go to preference here, for the smart devices, I will, in this case, I will select iOS. I need to change here for my Mac. I will select the emulator, and with this information should be enough in order to run the main program. The main program is this one, the food truck menu. I will set as an startup object, and I will run. Okay, just let me check about my network connection here. Okay. And we run. So now GeneXus should specify and generate all the programs. For this just created KB with the imported that were imported from Sketch, and to run this main menu or the dashboard that is very simple because only have the 5 panels. Now it's trying to connect with the Mac. Copying the project. And I will change to emulator here. Okay, now it's uploading the application. And now you can see that the design that we have created in Sketch, okay, was reflected here in GeneXus or in the application in several screens, okay. As you can see here, there are the data for this grid. I have the burger, the lollipop, the sweet bakery. All of this was created automatically with the import, all the panels. And we didn't need to program in GeneXus this. But let me show you something about how we can change from the static data that we are using from these data providers to change it to dynamic data. What we are going to do in this case is connect to a table that I already have created in one of the several databases that I have, and get the data from the product table from this external database. So how we do this? These panels, these data provider here are the one that gave us the data. Okay, this in particular, this one, the grid product, you can see here that it provides the data for this panel, for this panel here, the stripped chocolate. So we are going to change this. How we do? Well, let's go into database reverse engineering. Everybody know this. I will connect to this database, the Cinema. Then I have one table, the product table. I will say that import. I need to change something here. Okay. I will, let me add a rule here. I will rename the product as the product food, and I will add the data store. I will change this one here. Now I say Cinema product, and finish. So now we should have here the product food data view and the transaction product food. We check that is using the Cinema data store, that is the one that will define it here. And now we are going to change this data provider to get data dynamically from this table. What we do here is to remove this part of the data provider, and instead of using this static data, I will use the product image attribute. Here is the description, or the name in this case. And just changing this, I modify from the static data to dynamic data. If I do a bit of here, I will ask to key database. Because it must do a reorganization, but it's not going to perform the reorganization because it is a data view. So just continue. And after we have generated the food truck menu, we can see how it takes the data from this table and not anymore from the static from the data provider. It's using the data provider, but in this case, from the table. Okay, and if I run here, now if we go to the source one, now you see that we have another products here. There's regular Coke, Max and M&M's. That's the way that we change the data provider to get dynamic data. Well, this is basically the demo that we want to show to how to import a design system from a sketch and generate application with GeneXus, and also use dynamic data instead of static data as is provided by default in the import. Now we come back to the presentation. Okay. now Mauro will talk about something related for the design.
Great. So I think you need to stop sharing your. Right.
Yes, I already finished.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are you seeing my screen right now?
Yes, we can.
Great. So today I would like to share with you some recommendations and best practices for when you are designing in Sketch with the import of GeneXus in mind. So first of all, I would like to share some general recommendations about how you design inside Sketch for GeneXus. First of all, it's really important that you keep your design simple. What I mean by that is not just your design, but the way you structure your design inside Sketch. Let's see a example. For example, in this card, it's important that you can put the elements that are at the same part of the screen inside a folder. For example, here I have this background, white background, and the title, this little pill, one divider, description, well, the information about quantity and price, and the button, and the white background. Everything is inside a folder. This is important so GeneXus can understand better the design. And try to keep every element in order, so in order that appear from top to bottom. For example, here I have the title, then I have the pill and the blue line, the description, etc. And when you have elements in horizontal order, try to group them also. So it's better for GeneXus to understand this. So I have one group, then if I enter, I have another group, everything inside, and then another group for this part of the screen. And it's really important that you have the background at the bottom of the folder. Another important thing to have in mind is that it's really important that you name things meaningfulness. I mean, for example, here, the name of the artboard is something that is going to be important in GeneXus, and the developer will use then to make this dynamic. So, for example, here, this is a capture from Gonzalo's demo right now. And you can see that the price is okay, then the product description is okay, the product name is okay, but the image, I have a photo here that the name of the image was the real name of the image. And then for the developer, this doesn't make any sense. So try to keep your naming tidy. Maybe you can have a chat with the developer so you can agree together the naming. So in that way, the life of the developer would be better. It's really important that you name, especially when the design, the elements are going to be dynamic. Another important thing to have in mind is that it's important that you don't overlap things that not necessarily being overlapped. For example, here, this text frame could be overlapping this other one, and this is a problem when we try to understand in GeneXus what is going on here. So try to keep the frames not overlapping one over each other. Another important thing is here that when you are trying to put text elements that are going to be dynamic, that you keep space for this text to grow, because this is going to be dynamic. So if you put the text field in that way, when this get the real text in real time, is going to happen something like this. So you want to try to keep it here. So you define also the margins and give space to grow. Then let's move to images. When you are working with images, you're going to have two different kinds of images. First, you're going to have these kind of images that are static images. This is going to be static. Nothing is not going to change in runtime. So for those images, you need to export the images in every resolution and density that you need to display in good quality in different kind of devices. It's really quick. It is easy in Sketch to export those images. You just have to select it and then make exportable here. And we are using Android convention. So I think maybe you can use both iOS and Android, but I always use Android because have more densities. You have to do this step for every image that is static, and then you should export every image here. Go export, select everything you want to export, and then this is the folder that you have to send to your developer to have all those images. This applies to this kind of images, maybe this background, everything that is not going to change dynamically in runtime. The second type of images are images that are going to change, so dynamic images. For example, this one that is going to be replaced with the real product in real time, in runtime. For those images, you don't have to do anything, just give it that way. GeneXus will import them as sample data, but in runtime they are going to be replaced by the final images. Another important thing with images is try to avoid masked images. When you are designing in Sketch, multiple times you just grab an image, draw a rectangle because you want to use it that way, and then mask it and use it. Try to avoid that because it's difficult to GeneXus to recreate these masked images. Although we support rounded masks for images, like for example this one right here. In the future, we're going to expand to all kinds of masks, but right now, try to avoid masks. Another thing that, like images, you have to send to your developer are fonts. Right now, there is no a way to quickly and effectively export fonts from your Sketch design. So right now, you have to collect them by hand, put them in a folder, and send it to the developer. From the developer perspective, it's really easy to integrate them in GeneXus. It's just a couple of clicks, and you have it in your theme. As Gonzalo was saying, when you import a design in GeneXus, GeneXus keep the navigation between panels. So those orange lines here represent the navigation between panels. So you can select one item, for example, this one, and just press double here, and you can connect panel to another panel, and this is honoring it in GeneXus. Sketch have something called symbols, like this one that you see before. Those are reusable elements that you can design once and then instance in your design and override the content, like this one. This element, this, and this, all are the same symbol, and you change the content just to represent the content here. You integrate this in GeneXus. This map exactly with stencils in GeneXus. So all those symbols are going to be represented as stencils in GeneXus. We honor all the overrides to represent the different elements, and override of text and also override of images. In Sketch, you can override also styles here, and you can text styles, and you can override layer styles. Those styles we are not supporting right now in GeneXus. So if I change something here, for example, this style of the, well, here I don't have style, I think. I don't have style. If I change the style here, it won't be represented in GeneXus. One thing I forget about images, that it's important that you send to the developer all the images in all the states. For example, here we have a heart that is used like in the press or select state. So you have to send them both states, right? Okay, then we have a few conventions that you must follow to have some elements imported right in GeneXus. For example, if you want to import a button and that GeneXus understands that it is a button, we have a convention that the element, right now, for example, this symbol, it's a button. It's just like a drawing of a rectangle and a text. But we add the word button in the name, and GeneXus will understand this as a button. So he will assign the action in the program to navigate between the panels, etc. Another convention we have is, for example, for grids. Right now, this is a grid. Like the one you saw was that one here. A grid is just a folder, as you can see here. It's a folder with a repetitive symbol inside, right here. Those are the symbols. And if you name the folder starting with grid, that GeneXus will understand that this is a grid. So he is going to throw away all these symbols, just keep one to define the layout, and use the data here in the other symbols to create the data set sample for represent the content of the grid. And the same is for input text. If you want to have an input text, you can, for example, draw a little rectangle. You can have a text in here. This one, maybe a little icon here. You group of this and just name it starting with input and something. And this is something that is going to be represented in GeneXus with the input text control. Okay, and finally, something really important is that to have this responsive, because this is going to live in runtime inside different kind of devices, we honor all the responsiveness that you can define in Sketch right now. For example, here I have a component that is just designed, but I don't define any constraints on anything here. So if I stretch it here, you see what happened, that we don't respect the margins and the image is with another proportion. So to make it responsive, you have to set up constraints here with this tool in Sketch. For example, I want the image to be fixed in size. Maybe this is going to be fixed on both sides. This one I like to move to the right. And inside this group, maybe the text fix it to the right, and both text here, something like that. Let me see. And this image fixes something like that. So when these have a responsive, it's going to be behavior like the way we want it. I have some problem with this. There you are. So keep in mind that you have to set up all these constraints in order to have the the perfect responsive in your final application. For this, you can follow Sketch constraints best practices. I am going to give you a link in the chat in the meeting. So up to those are the recommendations I would like to show you today. But I'm going to show you something that we are working right now to accelerate the cycle between designers and developers. Right now, if you want to import one file, sketch file into your sketch into your GeneXus, you have to have the sketch file and the fonts and the images. We are working in a plugin that you can install in Sketch. So you can send to a service your design, and this service is going to process, import, and run and generate the applications, and it's going to give you back a QR code so you can test your design in your iPhone or in your Android phone. This is going to speed up really your process as a designer, so you can design and test really quick in that way. We have planned to liberate this plugin anytime soon. So for more information about how to import a sketch file in GeneXus, you can see the page in our wiki. I'm going to paste this link also in the chat. Great. So now we are going to go back to Gonzalo to finish the presentation. Gonzalo?
So can you listen to me now?
Are you there, Gonzalo?
Yep. Can you listen to me, Mauro?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So this slide was Mauro talking about the different things to take into account when you are using Sketch and to import later into GeneXus. Mauro was also talking about some of the next steps that we are going to. We are now in 2020. We want to finish the Sketch import tool as we have been working now. Okay. At this time, we are just in the initialization of the Sketch. We cannot update yet. The tool that Mauro just shown us is in order to allow the developer to upload the sketch design to a KB and test using the KB Navigator until it gets the final design. And when this design is import or sent to the developer, you can initialize the design with this. Our aim is to work in the update also, okay? But this is going to be during 2020. And after this, we would like to add Adobe XD to get more designers into the design system definition of GeneXus. We recommend very much this talk of Juan that was in the GeneXus 29th user conference, so you can attend this talk. It's very, very good about design system and design ops. And well, now we are open for the questions.
Great. We have the first question.
Yeah. Well, this is what I just talked about, that and right now the tool allows to initialize, okay, but we cannot do the update yet. We can, in the beta version, we have an option that you can define the panels as stencils, and so all the panels that you import from the sketch could work as an stencil. In this case, you can update, okay, but you need to define the panels that are going to have the stencils, okay. So we are still working on it. Mauro?
Yes, we don't have any date of release right now. So can I import any sketch file to GeneXus? For example, this one. Okay, well, the theoretical answer is yes, but no. For now, we can support really complex files, or files that use external libraries, or files that annotate symbols in many levels. So we have many limitations for the files that you can import. So for now, the safest way is to draw your own files, following all the best practices that we have right now. We hope that in the future, yes, you are going to be able to import anything you want. But right now, we have many limitations that files that the one you are sharing, that I suppose that is a complex one, probably fail. Is there another question? You're welcome.
You're welcome. So if you have no more questions, you can contact us anyway in the email that we left in the latest slide, anytime, Mauro and I.
Sure.
We have no more questions. So thank you, Gonzalo and Mauro, for the excellent presentation. Thanks to everyone for your participation. Just a final reminder, the recording of this webinar will be available on the GeneXus webinar site and on our YouTube channel. Remember to check our next GeneXus webinars and go and see the ones that you missed. All content is free and 100% online. I hope to see you again next time.